You've probably heard me say this one before. And after last night, I'm going to say it again. There are only two places in the world where they do ceremonies properly. One is Buckingham Palace, and the other is the Bell Center. What we saw last night was absolutely gorgeous, fitting, perfect. Every single note was in its right place. We're going to get to that here coming up in a couple of seconds. In the meantime, welcome to the program for today. This is the sheet for Wednesday, the October the 15th. Glad to have you aboard today. All is bright in Zachville as his Toronto Maple Leafs won a game against the Nashville Predators last night, and his captain scored 2 goals. So there's a jump in Zach's step, so much so that we have a little bit of hockey royalty on the program here today. Rick Tocchet, who's the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, will be aboard. Jesse Granger from The Athletic will be aboard as well. We have plenty to get to, whether it's injuries, whether it's games, whether it's games coming up tonight. I'm going to try not to put too much of an accent on what may happen between the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators. But you can kind of see this one coming a long way away, right, with Dylan Cousins. I'm just saying. In the meantime, before we get to our guests and before we get to some of the topics, and there's a couple of things I want to point out about last night, specifically at the Bell Center, let's get right to what's going on the program today. This is The Blueprint, and it is powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And the two big guests for the program today, or on the program today, rather, Rick Tocchet, the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, coming off a very impressive victory over the defending Stanley Cup champions. We'll talk to Rick Tocchet. We'll also talk to Jesse Granger coming up here in a couple of moments. Jesse's an interesting guy. He's a double threat in that his beat job is to cover the Vegas Golden Knights, but he also has a sharp focus on netminders around the NHL. So we'll get into both with Jesse coming up here in a couple of moments. We will talk about the Brady Tkachuk injury. We find ourselves in an NHL where both Tkachuk brothers are injured. Feel free, brothers, to do that when the Olympics roll around, I say as a proud Canadian. We'll talk about what happened at the Bell Center. We'll talk about the Rangers and their inability to score at MSG, now setting a record there. And we'll talk about the Vegas Golden Knights with Jesse. No shortage of stories there, whether it's the outstanding play on the ice or the increasing speculation, rumors, discussion about Carter Hart. Perhaps signing there, perhaps as early as today, maybe by the time this show goes off the air. He is now eligible to sign a contract in the NHL. In the meantime, really quickly, before I get to Jesse Granger, and it's appropriate because we're going to be talking about a goaltender here. We've seen some wonderful tributes, we saw a wonderful tribute to Bernie Parent a couple of nights ago in Philadelphia, and the player of the game gets a Bernie Parent mask, which is absolutely gorgeous and really fitting, and was really touching seeing Sean Couturier present that to Dan Vladar. Perfect. A perfect moment for the Philadelphia Flyers, as you know, just quite bluntly, as we were talking about yesterday with Kevin Kurz, Bernie Parent, one of, if not perhaps the most popular Philadelphia Flyer of all time. Quibble about him or Bobby Clark all you want. Bernie Parent was the reason that team won those 2 Stanley Cups in 74-75. Last night's in the home opener for the Montreal Canadiens, yet again another beautiful ceremony and fitting tribute to literally one of the giants of the game in Ken Dryden, and everything about this was perfect. And I think that is going to be the image that we all take away from last night. His former teammates on the bench with the applause, that was gorgeous as well. I mean, they do so well. What Montreal does really well is no one does understatement better than the Montreal Canadiens, and have a look at some of the legends, and this is on one end it's Yvon Cornwallier, to the right. At the other end it's Serge Savard and other Dryden teammates mixed in there all along. Beautiful, understated, yet powerful. I mean, that's what you get with the Montreal Canadiens. And, my dear friend Nancy, who's a Montreal Canadiens fan, actually, she's kind of Nancy's interesting. She's kind of a displaced Quebec Nordiques fan because she grew up a big fan of the Nords. And she now lives down south, and she's a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. And she knows how often I've used the phrase "ghosts of the Forum." You've probably used it too, or at least heard it. I mean, the tribute was was fantastic, beautiful for Habs fans. And she sent me this image of the Phantom of the Opera, and she said, "The Phantom who lives in the catacombs of the Paris Opera House, Ken Dryden, the ghosts of the Forum." Just look so beautiful, haunting, poetic, gorgeous together. The Phantom of the Opera and the ghosts of the Montreal Forum. A fitting tribute to the great Ken Dryden. Sticking with netminders, we're going to talk about someone who, whenever you talk to him, you have to talk about netminders because that is one of the beats that he covers alongside covering the Vegas Golden Knights, who many years included have them going to the Stanley Cup final this year. He is Jesse Granger from The Athletic, and he joins me now. First of all, I've said it for years, and I'll say it again. Buckingham Palace and the Bell Center, those are the two places in the world where they do ceremonies right. And as a goalie enthusiast, I'm sure you saw what they did yesterday in Montreal for Ken Dryden. Do you have a couple of thoughts, Jesse? First of all, welcome to the program. Do you have a couple of thoughts on how Montreal saluted one of their own last night?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. It was amazing. You put it perfectly. I don't think anyone does tributes better than them. Yeah. Ken Dryden deserves it as much as anyone. I had the honor of writing the story when he tragically passed away a little bit ago, and just going back through his life, it's what a character. Like, what a goalie, but the person is almost more interesting. The story of, like, this guy was so good at the NHL that he almost got bored of it. I mean, all the cups and all the Vezinas that he won in such a short time, and he was like, "This is too easy for me. I'm going to go do something else." Maybe the only person ever that goaltending in the NHL was too easy for him.
You know what? I'm going to go to law school. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to challenge myself, and then I'm going to get into politics. I'm going to be the MP of York Centre in Toronto, and then I'm going to go work as president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Fascinating, and it was. I mean, at his time, he was a physically, literally a giant. I mean, John Davidson was a large goaltender too, but Ken was. I mean, he wasn't the first large goalie in the NHL, but I mean, that really sort of defines him as much as the mask and the pose, right? The pose as well. And, it's a great history made when Montreal faced off against Buffalo, and it was brother versus brother, Ken Dryden and Dave Dryden. I mean, everyone has their own memories. There was one, I should have thought about this and grabbed the clip. It was a game against the Boston Bruins where after a flyby in the net, like, Ken's mask comes off and he still stands in there to stop shots. The last time I saw that would have been Andre Pavlik in an Ottawa-Atlanta game. And Pavlik stood there and took an Alex Kovalev shot up high. But Dryden, barefaced, stood in front of Boston Bruins shots once upon a time. But anyhow, we've had a week of goalie tributes. I'm sure you saw what happened with Bernie Parent as well with the Philadelphia Flyers. Rick Tocchet's up at the bottom of the hour. I'm getting long-winded here, but it's my way of transitioning from Dryden to Parent. And the first thought on the player of the game now in Philadelphia gets Bernie's mask. One of the great masks of all time. Jesse, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, pretty amazing. And you know what? Maybe it'll turn things around for the goaltending in Philadelphia, because last year was obviously a disaster for them. And I think that just even just that being in the locker room, and I do like Samuel Ersson. I like the way his game's trending. It's a great idea. It's a cool thing to have, and maybe a little bit of it'll rub off, and they'll get a few saves, more saves than last year, just because of that mask alone.
It's been, I mean, listen, Ron Hextall was brilliant in '87, winning the Conn Smythe in a losing cause. Before that, Pelle Lindbergh was poised for greatness before his tragedy. But it's a long story with the Philadelphia Flyers and their netminding. Kind of like the story about how Flyers, never draft and develop a defenseman. They only buy or trade for them. But I digress. Vegas Golden Knights, speaking of goaltenders, we will not be seeing Adin Hill for a while. Akira Schmid comes on last night, and really nice performance. Initially, a couple of thoughts on what we expect here with, well, I guess Vegas is without Adin Hill in the Golden Knights net.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic you brought up Ken Dryden, the mask coming off and him still trying to make saves, because the last time I saw it was last night. Adin Hill, for those that weren't watching, he took a shot off the mask. What typically happens when a goalie takes a shot off the mask, the buckles come off the back, his mask falls off. It happened bang, bang, so the officials weren't able to blow it dead. He actually made a save without the mask on, and that's kind of how he got hurt, it looks like. I don't have an update on how long he's going to be out, how serious it is. The Golden Knights are going to be on the ice here in Vegas here in about an hour and a half, so I'll be over there to get an update then. We'll see what Bruce Cassidy says, but It appears that that's where the injury occurred. He obviously didn't leave the game until the first intermission, which was several minutes later. But on that play, he was kind of down in the butterfly, and then he jumped up. And it was a really awkward move. He was doing it because he wasn't wearing a mask, so he wanted to get as high as possible to try to avoid getting hit in the face. And when he did that, it's hard to tell if the injury was a result of the puck hitting him somewhere vulnerable, which, to be honest, if you're a Golden Knights fan, that's probably the preferred outcome, or if he tweaked something in his lower body. It was a lower body injury, or if he tweaked something in his leg, making that awkward jump, because then he did fall over and he was grimacing. So it didn't look good. He did play a few minutes of hockey afterwards, so I guess that's a little encouraging. We'll see what Bruce Cassidy has to say today. But if they're without Adin Hill, it looks like Akira Schmid's going to be the guy. He's played really well in the preseason. He's looked good in camp. He played well last night. He stopped every shot he faced after he came in. He's a calm goalie who reads the play well. He's not the most athletic guy, but behind a solid defense, Akira Schmid can get the job done.
Curious as well, just as a sort of philosophical note, although I can see teams, using this tactically if we ever went down this route. There are some people that I've heard talk about the idea if a goalie takes a shot in the head, automatically they should go off and go into some type of, concussion check. I remember watching a game in Montreal. It was Montreal-Chicago, and I don't for the life of me understand how Corey Crawford stayed in the game. But Corey Crawford took right between the lookers, one from Shea Weber. And maybe the shot that I'm thinking of, and he goes back and he does the Nestea plunge, and I'm like, holy smokes. And he just does the old school sort of, shake the cobwebs out and lines up for the draw. And I'm thinking to myself, who's taking a Shea Weber shot off the head and staying in the game? I don't know if you have a thought on it. I mean, it has been brought up before. It's obviously going nowhere. You can see players, if they want to get a goalie out of the game, instead of running them, just fire one at their head. The idea of if you take one off the mask, you have to go off and get checked. You have a thought on that one?
Yeah, my first thought was what you just said, was will it be abused by teams just shooting for goalies' heads? If you're playing against Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yes.
I mean, because of that, it would be tough to actually use the rule. I will say that these helmets are incredible. When it hits you in the mask, that's when you get hit in the mask, that's when you really feel the ring, the power of the shot. When it hits above the mask, they're so good at deflecting the energy. You don't really feel much. I'm obviously not facing 100-mile-an-hour Shea Weber slap shots when I'm in beer league, but I've had a couple clappers to the face that so I do know a little bit what it feels like. And those masks are great. But like you said, when it hits you in the cage, right between the eyes, you do feel kind of full blunt force of that shot. And it is dangerous. And the more we learn about head trauma, obviously we need to be more concerned with that. Like I said, I think the toughest thing is would teams be now trying to just get the goalie out of the game by shooting one in his face?
That would never happen, because these guys are all honest and they have honor amongst one another, and they would never knock their grandmothers down an icy road for a nickel. They would never do that, Jesse Granger. They're all fine, upstanding athletes. One of the things that I've wondered about Vegas, and this involves the Jack Eichel contract, so he comes in at 13.5 on the heels of Connor's 12.5. One of the things that I've wondered about is the loyalty factor to Vegas. We know he loves it there. We know the team's a winning team, and it's always in the hunt for the Stanley Cup, and those are great considerations. One of the things that I've wondered about is how much Vegas went out of their way to get him and allow him to have the ADR surgery. Not that I think that Kelly McCrimmon sort of gently reminded him about that during the negotiations. I think that would be pretty tacky. But in the back of Eichel's mind, Jesse, do you think that, when the Buffalo Sabres were saying no and wanted to fuse my spine together and all my a number of my vertebrae together, Vegas said, you have bodily autonomy here and you can have the surgery that you want. I don't know if it was a prime factor, but do you think that maybe in the back of Eichel's mind, he's thinking, these guys really did me a solid here, when all I heard from the Buffalo Sabres was, no, you're not going to be able to, we're not going to allow you to do this?
I think it'd be hard for it not to enter his mind. And when you just look at, I think it's a case of he's only played for 2 organizations in his life. And the thought of hitting the open market and going to another organization where you don't know how you're going to be treated, how things are going to be handled. You don't know if it's going to be like it was in Buffalo or if it's going to be more like it is in Vegas. And so I do think that you go from that organization where They've struggled to get the culture right. They've struggled to put a winning team on the ice, and that's all you knew. Then you come to Vegas, you win a Stanley Cup. Like you said, they let you get your surgery. I think it does make it enters your mind, and it makes it a little easier to say, you know what, let's just stay here where I know how things are run. I know how things work. Let's not take that chance that I end up in an organization that like they're going to put on their best face when they're trying to attract me as a free agent, but we'll see what happens when I've been there for a couple of years. Like you're going to sign an 8-year, 7-year contract. I do think that knowing what you have in Vegas, know how this organization's run, and knowing how they've treated you absolutely plays a factor. And I think that's most NHL players. I think that's part of the reason everyone re-signs with their team is they know what they have here. They don't want to risk the chance of it getting worse.
So we're going to head into a summer where everybody's got cap space and there's no one to spend it on. Oh, lovely. Yep. We'll all have the summer off. One of my favorite things, Jesse, to ask owners is, if there was no salary cap, how much would you spend on your players? And Elliot and I, when we had Bill Foley on a couple of years ago, I'm like, all right, this is my big chance. I know the NHL is going to hate the answer, but here we go. And I asked Bill Foley that, and I think he said something like $150 million, which is like an outrageous number considering where the cap was at that point. But I think if you ask a lot of the larger market owners or teams that are wildly successful, they'll probably say something similar. But Foley's been like that from day one. I'm spending on this team. How is Bill Foley thought of amongst players, amongst fans, in Vegas? I mean, the reputation outside of Vegas is this guy is like singularly focused and will spend as much money as he needs to. Kind of like the late Ed Snyder with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's like the new age version of Ed Snyder. He will do anything it takes to win the Stanley Cup and spend however much it costs to win the Stanley Cup. That's the reputation outside of Vegas. What's it in Vegas, or is it the same?
Yeah, the players love him. He does whatever he can to make their, like you said, he would spend more if the cap would let him. They've got a genius salary cap guy, Andrew Lugerner, who does the math, and I'm sure every NHL fan listening knows very well that the Golden Knights do whatever they can to spend as much as they possibly can. And then he also goes above that, like he makes sure the facility is exactly what they want. If the players, I'll never forget, it was year one, and the players, like, it was the first week of training camp or something, and one of the players just mentioned to Bill, like, oh man, we don't have a ping pong table in here. At my old team, we had a ping pong table. And then the next day they go in and it's like a brand new one. The nicest one you could possibly find. Like that's obviously a pretty small thing for Bill Foley to do, but like that's an example of what he does to try. It's part of the reason players like it here. So the players like him. The fans in Vegas love Bill Foley, and it's not really so much the fact that he's willing to spend, it's that he brought pro sports to Vegas. And this is a city that has been starved for pro sports for basically its entire existence. And people in Vegas, natives that live here, wanted something to represent them that wasn't the Strip. Because obviously it's one of the most famous cities in the world. Everybody knows Las Vegas. It's not like it's not represented, but there's nothing that represents the people who live in Vegas until the Vegas Golden Knights come here. And now we look at it now almost like it's just a normal thing that pro sports are in Vegas. You've got the Raiders, you've got the Aces, WNBA, that have won 3 of the last 4 titles. You've got the A's coming here soon. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's kind of a normal thing. But before the Golden Knights came here, pro sports wanted nothing to do with this city. I remember covering fantasy football conventions in casinos before the Golden Knights were here, and the NFL wouldn't let them have the logos on the players' helmets. So there'd be a giant poster on the wall of Peyton Manning, but his helmet would just be solid white because you couldn't show a Colts logo. That's how much the NFL did not want anything to do with Las Vegas and the gambling. Yeah. Bill Foley was the first person who took a chance on this city and really convinced a league to buy into this city. And now it's like one of the fastest growing sports markets in the country. So I think that people in Vegas love Bill Foley because they feel like he was the one who finally got them a team that represents them. And it's why the Golden Knights are the most popular team in town, even more popular than the Raiders. As popular as the NFL is, there aren't as many diehards here for the Raiders as there are the Golden Knights, and I think it's because they were first. Yeah, and they're not from somewhere else. Like, they are a team that was born in Vegas. This isn't an adoption. These are the natural parents. Last night, the Calgary Flames go up 2-0, and then Vegas gets rolling. Now, I know it's the Calgary Flames, and I think we know what the season's going to be like for the Calgary Flames. It's going to be tons of trade rumors. But
When Vegas gets rolling, Colby Cohen this morning was, talking about on Morning Cup of Hockey about this team. Like when the wheels get going on this team, like you can't stop them. Like they just come in waves, and you saw the Vegas Golden Knights building all throughout that game last night. How do you beat them when they're playing like that? Like the Vegas Golden Knights that we saw in the second and third period last night. How do you beat that team? I know it's early, but man, this team looks good.
Yeah, I think you beat them by pressuring them in their own zone the way Calgary did in the first period. This team probably has the deepest forward group they've had in 8 years, and they've had good forwards for most of those 8 years, but the forward group is just elite right now. And like you said, when they come at you wave after wave, and when you get hemmed in your end, and then at the end of every shift, you're just dumping it into their end so they can come right back at you, it's tough to defend. They've got so much skill, so much speed. They have good forecheckers. There are very few holes in the forward group. To me, the weakness on this team is on defense. Alex Pietrangelo obviously left a huge hole. Noah Hannafin's out right now. The defense, as good as the forward group is, I think this might be the worst defensive group they've ever had. And they're not terrible. This isn't a bad blue line. They're just not as elite as they once were. And I think that the Golden Knights' biggest struggle through 4 games has been breaking the puck out of their own zone. If you can make them play in their own end and force them to break out and put pressure on them, they will make mistakes. And that's how Calgary got out to that 2-0 lead, was by pressuring them. Now, that's easier said than done. Getting this team playing on its heels with that forward group, it's not easy. But if you can do it and you can force them to break pucks out, like in that second half of the game, the Golden Knights never had to break any pucks out because it was just dump it and go get a line change. And by the time the Flames have done their line change, you're already over the red line and you're attacking. So if you can flip that script and make them be the ones trying to break out of their zone, I do think that there are weaknesses that you can take advantage of. But like I said, it's much easier said than done.
Okay, I'm going to take advantage of your goalie knowledge here in the couple of minutes I have left with you. Who should, 1 week into the season, for me the answer may be Thatcher Demko coming off the injury, but which goaltender should we be most impressed by from your desk?
Thatcher Demko is a great answer. If I'm trying to think of someone else, I love the way Jeremy Swayman has looked in Boston. Like Igor Shesterkin's the easy answer. Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in the world, and I think the gap between him and he is so good. And that New York team has not been good, and they're still winning games because you just can't score on him. But aside from him, to me, Jeremy Swayman, after that down year, there was a lot of doubts after they gave him that contract. He loses that safety blanket in Linus Ullmark. Swayman's game looks sensational right now. He's got such a good butterfly. He's so under control. He controls rebounds as well as any goalie in the world. Like, he just doesn't give himself extra work. He doesn't just make the save. He controls the puck. He either absorbs it, kicks it to the corner, makes life easy on his defense. And when he's on, it just feels like there's no scrambles around the net. There's no chaos around him because he just controls that puck so well. He's, like I said, great butterfly. He's always in position. He's a big guy. He's not the most athletic, but he reads the play incredibly well. So he's always in the right spots. He cuts off angles. I have been very, very impressed with Swayman. And based on the few games we've seen, it looks like he's like, I kind of expected a bounce back year, but the confidence level in that bounce back year is much higher than it was a week ago after seeing him play these games.
Okay, I'm going to ask you like a really deep, geeky question here. Like we're going like deep with goalies here. Were you surprised that Colton Ellis got claimed on waivers and Michael DiPietro didn't? What's the bigger shock?
Honestly, the guy I thought was going to get claimed more than anyone was Clay Stevenson in Washington. He is a stud down in the AHL. All the goalie coaches I talked to rave about the guy. They were telling me, like, all summer I was hearing, like, man, he's finally not waiver exempt. They're going to have to keep 3 goalies or they're going to risk losing him, and they waived him. And I was stunned that he didn't get claimed. But DiPietro's right there, another young goalie with a lot of talent. There are so many. Like, I'm nerding out, but there are so many good young goalies. There are so many good young goalies that haven't got the opportunity. There are just so few spots in the NHL for these guys to get chances. Like at forward and defense, if you're good enough, you're going to get the chance quick. At goalie, it's so easy to get. Well, Joel Hofer is a perfect example. Like, he is one of the best 30 goalies in the world right now. Like, he absolutely should be starting for a team, but he can't because Jordan Binnington's awesome. And if you're the Blues, why would you trade him? So it's like, you're just kind of stuck as the backup. And like Jet Greaves was in that situation in Columbus behind Merzlikins and Tarasov. And every time he'd get in the NHL for the last couple of years, he'd look amazing. They finally trade Tarasov. He gets in and he's the number 1 goalie in Columbus. The kid's awesome.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? It's interesting too because there's like I think of the Buffalo Sabres with Devin Levi sitting there in Rochester, and right now with the UPL injury, it's ride or die with Alex Lyon, Colton Ellis. You're Devin Levi. You're saying to yourself, what's going on here?
Yeah,
we're talking about we're saying like all these Buffalo Sabres. Right, and there's rumors of Tage Thompson may ask out, and we'll see what happens with Rasmus Dahlin and Alex Tuck and all that. And part of me is sitting here going like, I think you might have a big problem in Rochester too with this goal. He's not feeling so great about his career right now with the Sabres organization.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Devin Levi, you've been waiting for an opportunity and like UPL goes down, it's Georgiev and Lyon. Like there's not a lot there, and the fact that you aren't getting the chance is telling.
And like 2 third periods in the preseason.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, is his development path, like I don't talk to the goalie coaches in Buffalo a ton, but it's like it makes you wonder if they aren't as convinced in his development path as maybe we are just from watching. Obviously, he was awesome in that little stint we saw in the NHL, but yeah, it definitely makes you wonder how they view his development at this point.
All right, no more beating up the Buffalo Sabres. They got a game tonight against the Ottawa Senators, and we can all see the storyline there. Anyhow, Jesse, very generous with your time. I know you have to get to practice. Oh, by the way, really quick, all kinds of rumors about Carter Hart and the Vegas Golden Knights. That's been sort of everywhere. Could happen as early as today. Are we looking at this as if it's inevitable? It's only a matter of when the trigger gets pulled on this one. I mean, that's certainly the way it feels from the outside.
Yeah, it certainly does. And all the credit to Chris Johnson at The Athletic. He's been the one that's on top of this the whole time.
Yep.
He's basically figured it's going to be the Golden Knights that sign him. Everything I've heard basically goes along with that. I would expect them to sign him. And for now, he's a third goalie with some potential that they're hoping maybe can live up to that potential. It's been a long time since we've seen him play hockey, so we'll see how it plays out.
We'll stay tuned and see how the day plays out. Jesse, full value as always. Thanks, pal. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
Jesse Granger from The Athletic, covering the Vegas Golden Knights and also covering goaltending and goaltenders at large, not just in the NHL, but around the world as well. So we thank Jesse for stopping by the program. We're standing by for the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, Rick Tocchet, who I'm just warning you now. Okay, like we're going to talk a lot about the Flyers, and we're going to talk a lot about the big win against the Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions, and we'll talk about Michkov, and we'll talk about Couturier. But there's one day in Rick Tocchet's history that I'm going to talk to him about, and I'm really looking forward to it. And that day is April 16th, 1992. And it was the last game of the season. Should be a quote-unquote meaningless game. Most of the best players were scratched. It's the last game of the season. Meaningless. But some wild things happened in that game, and one that I'm still stunned by to this day, and I can't stop watching the highlights of it and asking people about it, and Rick Tocchet was part of that game. So at a certain point, I am going to go back to April 16th, 1992 with Rick Tocchet. This segment, by the way, a presentation of Prime Video and Monday Night Hockey, your exclusive home to the NHL, streaming games nationally in Canada every Monday. Always look forward to Prime Video's Faceoff Inside the NHL, now in Season 2. Subscribe with a 30-day free trial to Prime Video to watch Monday Night Hockey and the new season of Faceoff. Download the app or go to primevideo.com. With that, we'll welcome aboard the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, former member of the Philadelphia Flyers, number 22 in orange, folks. He is Rick Tocchet, and he joins me now on the sheet. Rick, good to see you again. How you been? Thanks for doing this.
I like on the sheet. I like.
Yeah, you're right there with me. Well, listen, at a certain point, we're gonna go back to a day that I still keep talking about, and you did something. I'm going to just be honest, that I still can't believe in that game, April 16th, 1992. But hang on, pause on that one. Okay. That one's coming. First of all, congratulations on the big win. And there's a lot out of that game that I want to get into. But before we get there, what I really loved is there was a Bernie Parent tribute the Philadelphia Flyers did in the preseason, and the Flyers also did one on opening night. I thought that was perfect for one of the giants of the game, one of the best goaltenders to even ever do it. The main reason why the Flyers won those 2 cups in 74, 75. Larger-than-life personality. Do you have a quick thought on Bernie and the mask, the player of the game? Like everything, Rick, came together so perfect, and a big win for your team.
Yeah, when Coots brought them, I didn't know about this mask, the presentation after the game, the player of the game.
Yeah.
We didn't know about it, and when he did it, and I saw the Bernie mask, it got you get a little emotional. And the reason why is Bernie was obviously we all loved him, but I know impact for me as a young kid. He was always the guys he'd come in and he would always smile. It didn't matter if you lost the game, if you're -3, you played an awful game or you played a good game. He was the same guy. And he had to say, hey guy, how you doing, guy? Hey, good game. And I'm like, Bernie, I was -4. I don't care. You still played well. I mean, that's Bernie. And, he's just a wonderful human being. And the fabric, one of the big fabrics of the Flyers.
Number 1 behind the net's beautiful. It's just such a gorgeous touch. It's kind of perfect. Okay. To the game itself, when you mentioned Sean Couturier, no one's ever going to confuse Sean Couturier for Pavel Bure, but still, man, he's moving this year. And that game, 4 points, a signature game here for Sean Couturier. What does the coach see? I know this is your first time handling him, but what does the coach see in Sean Couturier?
I see a guy that's moving well. I see a guy that's didn't like last year, and he did something about it this summer. He came in really good shape. After games, he's doing his recoveries. Like, he's doing all the right things. I'm not saying he didn't do that before. I don't know. All I know, he looks like a guy that's possessed. Obviously, even though the 2 games before, played him 20 minutes. The hard minutes, right? He's got to take faceoffs, penalty killing. He's getting power play time. So I think he's tired of losing, and I think he wants to be a solution here on turning things around. So that's what I see so far.
How much does a guy like Sean Couturier mean for Jetlachenko? Like, I don't know how long he's going to play this season. He has looked good. I like that line. Had the mini audition last year. I know Guelph from the OHL is hoping you guys send him back, but who knows where it's going to go. But I can't help but thinking having Jetlachenko in the same room as Sean Couturier is only going to benefit that young player.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm really sensitive when it comes to the young player and the veteran player, the relationship. And Coots has taken it upon himself to really teach the young guys. I remember it was my second or third year. I thought I made it, had the long hair in Philly, had a good year before. And I was lucky I had Brad McCrimmon and Mark Howe and Dave Poulin, Timmy Kerr. I mean, I go down the list of teaching me the proper ways to become a pro, how to handle yourself in games, off the ice. So I really believe that you got to pass the torch and help those guys. And I think I see that from Coots. And it really excites me when I see veteran players take care of young players, because I know it helped my career.
I can't help but thinking, even with the Pittsburgh Penguins and like how much the Penguins want to get like a lot of those young kids in the room around Crosby. Like, have that experience, have that rub off. Like, this is the way to your point about with Dave Poulin and with Beast and Howe and all those guys. Like, this is how we do it. One of the things that I was laughing about, and I'm still like giggling to myself about the game. So it's 4-2 late in the game. The Florida Panthers have pulled the goaltender, and there's Christian Dvorak in front, like he's trying to screen Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky's out. Sanheim shoots it. And he tips it in the net. Like, I'm sure you've never chiseled a goal from a teammate before, Rick. But I watch it and I'm like, what is Dvorak? It's great. I love it. I can't stop laughing about it that he tipped in an empty net goal. What did the coach think when he saw that? Because I have not stopped laughing about it. It's great.
Well, I've been preaching net front presence and all that all camp. I've been preaching the last 3 games, right? So I did a video. I actually just did a team video a couple hours. We do a game review.
Yeah.
My last clip, I can't believe you put that in. The last clip was, hey, boys, we're really getting better at this net front presence. Here's one of the best net I've seen all year. And I showed it. The guys laughed. Devo was laughing. He got a little red face. But, I think he looked embarrassed after he did it. But, I mean, he didn't know. I guess he didn't know. I don't know.
It was awesome.
Who shot it from the point?
Sanheim.
I can't remember.
Sanheim shot it, yeah.
So if Sandy, if he's one career short of his all-time high goals, he's gonna have to blame Devo.
Back in the old like goal bonus days, like you saw that all the time, like guys chiseling goals. Like I'm 2 goals away from $20,000 here. I need to get a goal wherever I can.
That happened a lot.
Oh, I you know what? I remember an old, God, this is like from the late 70s, Rick, and it was, I think Lanny McDonald had like a 10,000 bonus for 20 or 30 goals. It was a 2-on-0. It might have even been an empty net. And Sittler's got the yawning cage, and instead of shooting it, he passes to Lanny. You could just see Harold freaking out about having to spend like an extra 20 grand.
Exactly.
And he passed it to Lanny. I look up to the bunker with him and King, like, yeah, 20 grand, let's go, cha-cha. You're right, that did happen. That happened all the time, Rick. Like in your era too, like, okay, before a game, it's like, okay, who's close to this milestone, who's close to that milestone?
Yeah, I've seen guys go out of their way, try to get a guy bonus, but also in the back then too, Ed Snyder did it. He'd have a brown envelope with money. So if we got 6 or 7 points out of 10, you got more money, right? So it's a segment of 5. If your power play was over a certain percentage of your penalty kill, and then you get these bonuses, and every month, if you got these goals, you get a brown envelope of money, cash. And I remember back in the day, we won the president. We had a good team, so we made a lot of these bonuses. So, I mean, we're grabbing, back then like $1,100, $1,500 cash from the owner. He didn't have to do that. So, yeah, that's the stuff they used to do back in the day.
It's remarkable. That must have been just so much fun as a player as well.
Yeah.
Let me get to what I thought was like the Dvorak play was like, that's the one that I'm always going to look back on and just laugh. But before that, like the 3-2 goal, the Couturier goal, and the play by Zegras behind the net. So I'll be honest with you. I see Zegras behind the net with the puck. I'm thinking Michigan. And I think we're all thinking he's gonna do something. And he takes a hit from like 2 beasts, like Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett, and makes the play, gets it to Couturier, and he scores. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the guy in Anaheim's going for a Michigan, or he's trying to flip it over the net or something. This guy takes a hit from 2 guys with Stanley Cup rings and makes a play to Couturier in the home opener. I'm like, it seems like a different Trevor Zegras. I know you didn't have him before, but like, what are the conversations with this young athlete like now?
He's honestly, Jeff, a pleasure to coach. He's a really nice kid. He knows he wants to get his game back. He knows what he has to do. And there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. There's some old habits that we're trying to get him away with. But to me, that's a great habit, right? If you look at Couturier, he gets blown up by Bennett. He gets up. Then all of a sudden, Zegras gets it. And he knows he's going to get crunched, and he just holds it for another second. If he throws a puck early, it doesn't go through the Panthers' defense. But because he waits, he knows he's going to get hit a little bit, and then he makes that play. So that's good stuff. I mean, that's willing to take a hit to make a play, and it was obviously a big moment, right? It's a high-level play with 4 minutes left against the Stanley Cup champs.
It's huge. Listen, a couple of other players I want to get your thoughts on. Nikita Grobenkin may not be a headline maker right now.
Yeah.
But from my perch in media, the guy's gold. Fantastic. Always a great quote, great personality. What does the coach see in Grobenkin?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I that's a struggle right now. Is we've had 5 penalties every game, so we've had 15 penalties. So if you do the math, I mean that shortens the game up. I got to get him out there. He's making things happen. Half wall. I mean, hash mark down, coming up with loose pucks, holding on to pucks. He's really good at. He's a good hockey player that I think there's another level for him. So right now, he's buying time, but I got to get him out there more because I agree what you're saying. He's a dynamic kid off the ice. He's a funny kid. The language barrier a little bit. I think he's starting to learn English, but the old universal hockey language he understands.
Yeah. How do you get? That's one issue. And listen, Matvei Michkov is like one of the elite skill players. Like, what are some of the issues? Getting through, changing the game. I don't want to say change. Actually, I don't want to say changing the game because I don't think you want to profoundly change the player. I think you want to sort of massage the player for like this is the way we need to play to be successful here. Like this is all about growth and development here. Like as you look at handling this player, like what's going through your mind as like, okay, I got to encourage here and I've got to dissuade there. Like, and he's such a skilled player and can be such a star. Like, how do you handle that, Rick?
Yeah.
It's got to be sensitive.
Yeah, it's sensitive. First of all, we all have to understand he's a second-year guy. He's there's a little bit of a language barrier. He's coming over here trying to learn the culture and different things. So right away, he's got that. I'm a big crest guy. We're a culture guy. We're trying to turn things around here. How do you win? But also, you got to allow this guy to be able to be creative and do his thing. He can make mistakes because the risk reward is there, Jeff. We got to allow him to make some plays because he can make that Zegras play, or he can make a high level play with 3 minutes left. But there has to be also the confines of the team. He's got to make sure that when we don't have the puck, you cannot always leave the zone. Things like that. Power play. You got to be the guy back on. After a faceoff loss, you can't dive in. These are little things that we're just going to have to stay on top of. He got off behind the 8 ball a little bit with the fitness. I guess he had a little bit of an ankle problem this summer. He didn't train like he was supposed to. So, he's in practices, we're getting him up to speed. Like today, I know it's a corny thing, but his last 2 practices, he looks faster. And there's certain things that we can help him on to play faster. But in the long story of this, he's a fabulous kid, and the kid wants to win. And he's creative, and we got to allow that. I'm not stupid. I don't want him to dump the puck in, but there's certain times when we tell him when there's 4 guys around you and there's no play, that puck has to go deep. I don't care. Connor McDavid does that. I mean, so I think there's things that we have to give and take with him. But like I said, he's bought in. I mean, he's in with the coaches every day watching video. So
when I look at skilled players like Michkov, I always think of in terms of percentages. And if he costs you 3 scoring chances, but he creates 8. Right. I'm good with like. Do you have a number in mind? He's going to cost us a couple, but he's also created X amount. Is there a specific number? Or you just go based on feel for that game?
No, but there's something. Just what you just said. There's something to that. There's still situational hockey. There's 3 minutes left. You're up a goal. I'm not sure a high risk play is the right time. First period. You got him against the 4th line. And he's got a chance to make a high level play. It doesn't work out. Yeah, no problem. That's an okay mistake. I think there's got to be situational hockey involved in that risk reward. But if he's creating 8 chances, 4 and 3 against, that's a good thing.
When you took over the Flyers, what did you think they needed? Or after being with them for a while, did it sort of come to you? What did this team need as you've realized now?
Well, I think at any time when they've had success over the years, right? And everybody knows it's a rebuild, right? They're trying to get draft picks, and they're trying to keep players here also, and they're trying to make the Foresters and the Cates and the Yorks, and they're in that age, right? That 24. How do you get them to lead and be the foundational piece? To me, it's like I said, it's all about the culture and the crest, and how do we, what does it become a Flyer? When we come to the rink every day, what do we do every day to become, first of all, a good hockey player and a good team, but what do the Flyers do? How do we handle stuff? How do we handle outside noise? I mean, if you read every day that, Flyers are going to be last place or they're not good and they lose every year, you read into that stuff, you're dealing from a negative. My thing is I got some good young hockey players here that have a huge growth potential. We just got to put them in a good environment every day that we're doing the right things. Whether we win or lose, I don't know, but we have to go through it. I know it's the most overused word in sports is process, but there has to be a process every day to get there for the results, and that's kind of my goal right now.
When you mentioned when you mentioned culture, I think of the Philadelphia Flyers, and we all have our stereotype of. And listen, you played, and you're we all have our idea of what a Philadelphia Flyer is and what a team is. I was a big fan of Fred Shero. I love what Fred Shero. I don't know if have you ever heard the bacon and egg story from Fred Shero? You ever heard that one? What was that? The Flyers are the best team in the league in '75. They march into Pittsburgh, who are a bad team, and they get beaten. The guys are all dogged, and I think they went out the night before. Anyhow, the next day of practice, not a single puck hits the ice. Fred comes into the room. The guys' tongues are hanging out. And Fred comes in and goes, "I heard all you guys last night. Coming off the ice, I made a contribution. He goes to the chalkboard and he draws 3 strips of bacon and 2 eggs. And he goes, "This is what I had for breakfast. This tells me everything I expect out of you as a Philadelphia Flyer." And the guys are all looking at Fred Well, what's he going on about? He goes, I had bacon and eggs this morning. I heard you guys last night. I made a contribution. He goes, for breakfast on my plate, the chicken made a contribution, but the pig made a commitment. And that's what I expect out of you as a Philadelphia. And all the guys' eyes are like, oh my God, I can't believe we just heard that one from Fred. So I think of like Fred and establishing like what that culture is. And when I think of Philadelphia, it's just, and we just started the conversation by talking about Bernie. It's like sacrifice. And this goes back to like Ed Snyder. You played for Ed Snyder. You know, if you sacrifice and you lay out, this team and this town will reward you handsomely.
Yeah. It's one of the best places to play. The rewards in this town. You go to an Eagle game or you go to a Phillies game. I mean, going to a Phillies game is one of the most intimidating places to play in. You know, I know they had a tough in the playoffs. They're still it's a great year for them and stuff like that. We want, you know, like the other night, I was talking to Danny and Jones. They said the building was loud as they've heard in a couple of years. This is what we're trying to preach here is like when you come in here, I like all teams. I'm not, I'm preaching the choir here, but everybody wants to make it a comfortable place to play. That's what the Flyers are known for. When you come here, they didn't beat themselves. You had to earn it, and I think that's what we're trying to do here is create that identity. And the fans, if you work hard in this town, they'll like it. If you're a team that, I'm not saying dog it, but if you're on your game some nights, there's inconsistencies, they don't know what they're going to get from you, you're going to have a tough time here. So I think that's the one thing with the fans. They drag you in the fight. You better be able to fight. That's what they want you to be able to fight and scratch and claw for every piece of ice that there is out there.
Okay. With that, perfect segue. I'm going to take you back to 92. I'm going to close with this one. I'm curious your memories on this. April 16th, 1992. You're playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You're MSG. You're playing the Rangers. Speaking of fighting, you fought Chris King and you had a broken jaw. I don't know what you're thinking, Rick. And then I think you went after Messier after that too. Like, holy smokes, Rick! It's the last game of the season. So, but in that game, I am fascinated with this. So Scotty Bowman's your coach with the Penguins, and he saw, and it probably would have been, I think, Toe Blake or Dick Irvin who did this with Charlie Hodge and Jacques Plante. He changed goalies mid-play while the play was going on. I'm really hoping you have a memory of this because Scotty Bowman, it was Wendell Young and Ken Reggett. In the third, like Scotty had kept changing the goaltenders all game long. There were 8 changes. 7 of them were after whistles. And during the play, we got the video here. Puck is in your zone. It's going to squirt out to the neutral zone, and we're going to see the goal. You just miss it in the camera, but I think it's Wendell Young skating off for Ken Reggett or the other way around. The puck comes back up the ice, and the goalies have changed. It's Messier leading the rush, and the goaltender is different. Do you remember? That's Wendell Young. Do you remember that? Because I had heard that you guys in the room before were like, guys, you got to do it. You got to do it on the fly. It's the last game of the season. You guys got blown out 7-1 that game. It didn't matter. Guys, you got to do this. You got to change on the fly. Do you remember that moment watching goalies change on the fly?
And those guys were in cahoots. This was on Scotty didn't want that to happen. They just did it. It was they were in cahoots on that, and let's face it. I mean, we were going to the playoffs, and it was a fun moment. And when they did it, we all kind of laughed about it later. But that was those guys doing it. And I remember it. Yes, it was hilarious.
I could just imagine like the bench going crazy. Like, you know what it's like. It's like a last game of the season. Let's just get through it. But like the bench must have gone crazy. When do you see goalies changing on the fly?
Yeah, and Wendell was an unbelievable teammate. Wendell Young, he was a guy that kept the room loose. And I think that was just his way of, his way of having a little bit of hijinks. But it was kind of funny, and it was a nothing game.
Okay, so let's fast forward then. Let me just do this on the fly here. It's the last game of the season. It's Tuesday the 14th. You're playing the Montreal Canadiens. Let's say the Philadelphia Flyers have a playoff spot locked up, and Sammy Urson and Dan Vladar decide to change on the fly. What does Rick Tocchet say?
Do we lock up a playoff?
You've locked. No, that's what I'm saying. You just like that situation, like with you in Pittsburgh. You've locked up a playoff spot
this year.
No, I'm saying like coming up this year, April 20. If it happens, you've locked up a playoff spot. Sammy Urson and Dan Vladar can do it.
Have at it. We just locked up a playoff spot. We're trying to get the playoffs. You got me on that one. Yes, I'll allow that to happen. I don't care what anybody says. I'll book it right now.
All right, free pass for the goaltenders. Change on the fly. We haven't seen it since 1992.
Well, we had to have the locked up position, though.
Of course, yeah. You locked it just like your Penguins had it locked. It was a blowout game too. Quick thought on why are you fighting Chris King with a broken jaw, Rick? Back in '92. I know you were tough. You got nothing to prove, Rick.
We always talk about the last game, like the teams that don't make the playoffs, the team that the team that makes the playoffs. That last game, playing a non-playoff team, is probably the worst game in hockey, right?
Yep.
And I remember back in the day, I was playing for the Flyers. Craig Berube was on my team, Keith Jones, and we were playing the Rangers. The Rangers weren't going to make the playoffs that year. So they call up a guy, Dale Puritan. Remember him?
I remember Dale Puritan. Yeah, tough player.
He was a very tough guy, and he's trying to make a name. He had 500 minutes in the penalties in the minors, and he's skating around the warm-up. And he's Keith Jones is stretching, and Keith Jones calls him the Purifier. Hey, Purifier, why don't you try this guy? And he's put to Craig Berube. And Chiefs going to Jonesy, I don't want to fight. I'm going to the playoffs. I don't want to fight. So they're laughing. Well, so anyways, the first shift of the game, Puritan's running around, and he's looking to fight somebody. He's trying to press the Rangers, right? So Craig Berube jumps off the bench, and he goes to the Ranger bench. A true story. And he goes to Brian Leach. Brian, you see that guy there? I will fight him, but I'm going to fight you first. That's the rule right now. And so Brian Leach goes, I get it. He jumps off the bench, and Leach goes to Puritan and goes, cool it. So anyways, the game went on and nothing happened. But the last shift of the game, I think Puritan went after Primo. But it's just, I just want to segue in. The last game of the year sucks, I think, when you're a playoff team playing a non-playoff team.
It's like Marty McSorley told me, he went by the Leafs bench and said, Clark Wendell's got to stop going at Wayne, and Wendell did, and he said, all right, that's Gilmore, and that was the elbow. That was the elbow that started that fight with Wendell. Thanks for the insight, Rick, and thanks for the trip down memory lane back to 1992 and changing goalies on the fly. And Vladar and Urson, you guys got the green light from the coach. All you got to do is make the playoffs and have it wrapped up by the time April rolls around. Thanks, Rick. Always appreciate it. Thanks, pal. You be good.
Nice, great talking to you, Jeff.
There he is, Rick Tocchet, the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. That game still, and that moment still fascinating to me. And there we go. Zach, all we need is the Philadelphia Flyers to have the playoffs wrapped up for that final game so we can see Sam Ersson and Dan Vladar change on the fly.
If that happens, it's going to be the best ever. I'm going to be, if they lock up the playoff spot, I will be watching every Flyers game like a hawk for the rest of the season until that moment happens.
Now, we got to
it's going to be awesome.
We got save that clip of the coach giving them the green light and just go for
100%.
it. Because that game, the Rangers blew out the 7-1 was the final. They did that as a goof in a blowout game. So even if Montreal is just scotching the Philadelphia Flyers, you got the green light from your coach, man.
Yeah, you're good.
Go ahead, guys.
Doesn't matter. Have some fun.
Let's
get through this one.
I love that one.
Thanks to
Rick Tocchet, and thanks to the Philadelphia Flyers for making their head coach available. All right. Time now for our QOD, and I put in an alternate QOD as well. I kind of snuck one in there, Zach. I'm not sure if you saw that. In the meantime, this is our Ninja Crispy QOD. But first, this.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. Now you have the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. Just prep it, snap it, crisp it, serve it all in one container. Even I can do this. This glass air fryer is PFSA free. Trust me, I'm awful, but I could do this. Thus, no harmful chemicals while cooking. It includes a small 6-cup and larger 4QT Tempware container. Whether you're whipping up a quick single-serving meal in 7 minutes, sharing crispy snacks on the go, or serving a crowd, the Ninja Crispy makes it easy. Cleanup is simple. All accessories are dishwasher safe and designed to nest for easy storage. Check out the link in the episode description or go to sharkninja.ca. 6-cup and larger 4-quart Tempware container to carry around your chow. All right, the Ninja Crispy QOD. There's a couple. One is, what is the most surprising thing a week in, and what is the least surprising thing a weekend. I kind of snuck that one in under the wire. Not sure if you noticed that one.
Okay, I missed that one. So that's on me. I do have responses here though for people.
What do we got
from the chat? Question of the day, obviously, the most surprising things that we've seen so far through a week.
Yep.
Big Willie, happy birthday, by the way, Big Willie.
Oh, nice.
Working all of our chats.
Respect to the
Happy
chat.
birthday.
Respect to the chat.
Yes. He did comment, and it's kind of funny because he is right. One of the biggest conversations we've had through the first week has been contracts. Every day, somebody new signing, somebody new's extending, which I don't know. Like it kind
maybe
of
Carter Hart today
would get signed.
Maybe Carter Hart today.
Felt like these would get done during the year. Like I wouldn't have been surprised by that at all. But for them to all just like pile up at the beginning of the season, it's a good point. I didn't really think that would be the case. That was kind of surprising.
It is an interesting one. I come back to the, players just want to get things done, and I don't think they want, like, when you consider like the massive stories, like how long have we been talking about? Oh, you can't wait for July 1st, 2026 is going to be insane. Did you see the free? So you just know, and all the players know that this is a story that's going to dog them all season long. I don't think Eichel wants this to follow him. I don't think McDavid wanted this to follow it. I don't think the Kaprizov. I don't think any of these guys wanted them to follow them all season long. So there is an element of, I don't want to have, like, trust me, like, I think that was a big part of Lane Hudson getting hit, because there was no pressure point. There was no pressure point for Lane Hudson, no pressure point for Cortex. The pressure point was next September for them to get a deal. There was no pressure point. I just don't think that Lane Hudson wanted that conversation around him. I think he just wanted the conversation around him to be about his play and the Montreal Canadiens play. I don't think he wanted to make it about his contract at all.
Which is fair. And especially, like, you hear Colby talk about it on Morning Cup of Hockey. He was like, this is a guy who would play Friday, Saturday, and be the only guy on the ice on Sunday morning. All he wants to do is play hockey. That's it.
Play hockey.
He doesn't want to
play
talk about
all summer long
or anything like that. Yeah,
him and Demidov, like, they didn't take their skates off. Like, I don't think their dry fits got dry all summer long. Like, they just stayed in wet clothes all summer because all they did was skate.
They were just driving around from rink to rink, not taking their gear off. That's what Lapierre told us, right? He was like, they were just playing with me in a tournament. He's looking around going, what the hell are you doing here?
Just hockey nomads, like, just wandering around, just like Kwai Chang Kang and Kane and Kung Fu. Snatch the pebble, grasshopper, only then may you leave the temple. Anyhow. That's a good one, Willie.
Fire some of these other ones here.
Let's go.
For you, and you give your thoughts. Jeffrey Moran, the biggest surprise is the Rangers can't score at home.
Can't figure it out. Poor Johnny Lazarus. I mean, I feel for the Rangers. I feel for Vinny Trocheck on LTIR now. Jeez, man. And Lazarus is poor Laz is pulling his hair out, trying to figure out what's wrong with this team, and who's gonna score goals. Meanwhile, you see who popped in 2 power play goals last night for the Quack.
Yeah, Kreider. I know.
Oof.
Salt in the wounds.
Yeah, so just a little bit there for the Rangers. With love, signed Chris. Anything else you got?
Spencer Newton, 992. Biggest surprise, how Florida and Sergei Bobrovsky have been this good is definitely a surprise. Now, I don't know if you saw, but Paul Maurice announced just before we went live that Kulikov is going to miss about 5 months with an upper body injury. So,
to that
lineup.
I kind of thought, and when Kulikov got injured, like right away, you saw who San Jose put on waivers. Lucas Carlson. I thought that Florida was going to bring Lucas Carlson back to the Panthers, knowing that the Kulikov injury was going to be, more severe than 2 to 4 weeks. But once again, I was wrong. It just seemed like too coincidental. Kulikov's injured. San Jose waives Carlson. Oh, you don't say.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Very, very interesting. I did see that. That's a tough one. Anything else? Because I want to promote tomorrow's Morning Cup of Hockey. It should be a good one.
Yeah. Last one I'll give to you because I saw them last night. But Portuguese Walrus, biggest surprise, the Preds have a pulse. This one's just an interesting one because I was watching last night. One of my roommates said to me, he's like, wow, the Preds have a lot of names. I'm like,
they do.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of names.
They really didn't piss a drop last year. I know, but there's a lot of recognizable names on the Nashville Predators. And you know what I was disappointed in? I get it. I understand it. And I suppose I understand why Andrew Burnett did it. Brady Martin scratched last night.
Yeah. Okay, I'll say this. I think that's one of those ones you just have to play the kid. You play here once, right? You're here once.
I know that you
where
don't.
He's air quotes from.
I know. I'm of a couple of minds. One, he's a big piece of your future. He's a first round pick. He's made the team. He's been great. Living with Forsberg, and Forsberg's kid loves him. He's charming, and Preds fans are all excited. But I do share that. I mean, it's just a product of age. I do share a sensitivity about too much too soon for a kid, and always sort of just putting enough cheese in the trap. And by that I mean reminding him that not everything's going to be given to you. Whatever you expect, don't expect anything, and don't take anything for granted. He's going to get his game in Toronto eventually. Yeah. We all know it's going to happen. And this saves him from playing free hockey on his entry-level deal. When you go back to your hometown, essentially, you're buying 1 million tickets. I'm playing free hockey today. I'm not getting paid. I spent my day's check on tickets for a game. I don't know. I'm not an NHL coach. I do understand the dynamics at play. Part of me would just say, play the kid, give him the cookie. The other part of me would be, I'm not just going to play a kid because he's at home, because I have a responsibility, not just to Brady Martin, but I got a responsibility to this entire team. And I don't think the entire team, in a year as sensitive as it is for the Nashville Predators, I don't want them to think that I'm being frivolous when my decision is the kid shouldn't play this game. And I'm not just going to do it just to do a solid for the kid who's been here for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know.
I don't have any hands on the wheel, so I'm saying, play the kid, rock and roll, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. That's on the same boat as
job's on the line. Oh, come on. You're not being frivolous about Andrew Burnett's career. Play him, you dope. Oh, what's Brunette doing? Said the guy in the back seat.
Make him feel good. Give him a chance.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Go for it. Really quickly, you mentioned Morning Cup of Hockey. James Van Riemsdyk is going to be on every 2 weeks. So I think Friedman and Van Riemsdyk are swapping week to week. So JVR of the Detroit Red Wings will be on Morning Cup of Hockey tomorrow. Look at that gorgeous promo. Attaboy, Zach. JVR every 2 weeks on Morning Cup of Hockey, 9 a.m. on our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, where you are watching this show right now, if you are indeed watching. Lovely graphic. That's how you do a promo.
Thank you.
That's you're a professional. You're a professional.
I try.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. What we got? We got a number of games today, and I want to remind everybody what's coming up here in about 1 hour's time. But first, the sheet is powered by FanDuel. Our friends there, home of the same game parlay, make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What you got?
Look, there's 4 games on the schedule tonight, and I will take a peek at all of them, but there is one I will not be able to take my eyes off of, and I'm pretty sure it's the same situation for you.
Are you going to do it?
Sens -110, Sabres -110. We are dead even in the odds for tonight's game. Ottawa on the road, no Brady Tkachuk, we know. Dylan Cousins has already played his, air quotes, revenge game against the Sabres last year. He played in Buffalo, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But this kind of feels like one of those ones, it's inevitable. I do not get the warm and fuzzies for the Sabres tonight, Jeff. I don't. I'm sorry, Buffalo, but
I don't.
It feels like one of those ones where the Sens come in and they're like, we don't have Brady Tkachuk. We got to step up for our guy and just whomp the Sabres. I don't know. I kind of get that vibe going in.
Dylan Cousins going to get a hat trick tonight. What's FanDuel doing with that? And then Sam Reinhart again when they play the Panthers later on this week.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Sabres are 0-6, and then Oh, I know. That's the one I'm keying in on tonight, though. I don't know. You look Florida, they're favored against the Red Wings. Calgary, big underdogs against Utah tonight, and then the Blackhawks on the road at St. Louis. But
I know,
it's all eyes on Sens Sabres for me.
Quick thought on Chicago, because I got to get to Yaremchuk's show in a couple of seconds, but I know they don't have the points to show for it. And I know Colby Cohen the other day was talking about, Pyrrhic victories and empty calorie games, and I understand that. This team is playing a lot harder this year, and all the games are competitive, and we didn't always say that about the Blackhawks last year. I know the results aren't there. Results-oriented industry, Marek. Results-oriented. Okay, yeah. Okay, Park, a tough guy. They've taken. I know. They've taken a step. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, they're not gonna make the playoffs. I get it, but Bedard looks better. Frank Nazar looks fantastic. Sam Brinzel looks really good. They've taken a step. They've taken a step.
I'm just going to throw this out there. You brought it up, and at this point, because I've seen it, I can't not do it. Dylan Cousins to score a hat trick.
I knew you would do this. What does FanDuel have?
$5 on this pays you $1,125. I don't look. Let me put a disclaimer. I do not think that this happens. The odds indicate it's unlikely, but I will not pass up an opportunity to be betting on this tonight. And FanDuel has by far the best odds you could get. It's Dylan Cousins' hat trick for me. I can't pass this up. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'll be happy to get that text tonight, if it does happen at all. Hey, coming up in under an hour here, if you're watching or listening to us live, DFO Rundown, the Insider Edition with Dave Pagnotta and Irfan Ghaffar. That comes up at 3 o'clock Eastern right here on our Daily Faceoff channel. So if you are so inclined, and I encourage you to do so, check out that show in week 2. In the meantime, thanks to Jesse Granger from The Athletic for stopping by and talking about the Vegas Golden Knights and the goaltending issues around the NHL, and some nice thoughts about Ken Dryden and Bernie Parent as well. Speaking of Bernie Parent and the Philadelphia Flyers, thanks to Flyers head coach Rick Tocchet for stopping by to talk about this year's edition of the Flyers so far, coming off that win against the Panthers, and going back in history and indulging me with stories about Fred Shero from 75, and then the goalie change on the fly in 92, and him saying he would let Dan Vladar and Sam Ersson do it. So we're going to keep pumping that video out as the Philadelphia Flyers get closer. Now, all of a sudden, I really want... Now if you just cheer to see cool stuff happen in hockey, now you're invested in seeing the Philadelphia Flyers make the playoffs and have it wrapped up by game 81, because it's green light for a goalie change on the fly in game 82 against the Montreal Canadiens. That
I'm
from
Leafs fan first,
the coach's
Jeff.
mouth.
Fan too.
You're Flyers fan too? No, just so you can see that?
All season, Flyers fan number 2. Yeah, I need to see it.
After that promise from Rick Tocchet, we are all Flyers fans, just to see some more history made in the NHL. Don't forget Morning Cup of Hockey tomorrow. James Van Riemsdyk, Daily Faceoff coming up here, Insider Edition, Daily Faceoff Rundown, that is, Insider Edition. Irfan Ghaffar and and Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period. That coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for the buns and the use of the hall, they tell me. And tip your Zamboni driver on the way out. The sheet is off the air. We are back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern. Jeff Marek along with you. Hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for the sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy. It's true.